how did you come across sky breath? What has it meant for your life and the benefits you've seen?
Yeah, so I was living in New York City during 9/11. And after that day, I seemed to have this sort of really intense anxiety at 8:30 a.m. every morning before leaving my apartment building. And I was trying a lot of things, and nothing seemed to work to help me until I walked into the sky breath meditation class that was being offered by some classmates of mine at Columbia University. And I remember thinking, what is this? Like breathing, really? But then really finding that it worked so well for me. And I was very skeptical. And the instructors, I'm sure that you do this, Leslye, suggest that you practice the technique for 40 days. And I said, yeah, I'm going to do that because I don't believe you. I was a very skeptically minded scientist. And I did it for 40 days and I realized I did not have the anxiety anymore. I was sleeping so well. I was performing really well at work. And it was a time when I was working 3 different jobs and going to grad school. It was really intense, but I seemed to be sailing through things so much better. And I realized then, what a profound impact it was having on my nervous system. That really, I think of it as resilience, stress resilience, because our lives are stressful. My life was stressful, but it's almost as if it creates a buffer. And I think from our research and research by some of our colleagues, when we practice the sky breath meditation, I feel like it's physiologically wiring us to be more in that parasympathetic or calming state rather than the sympathetic, which is, sort of the stress-filled life that we tend to live, with or without trauma. This is kind of our life. And to build stress resilience is what I noticed. And fast forward 10 years later, I was still practicing every day, but I started working with veterans with trauma. And I was looking at some of my colleagues who were doing research with mindfulness, and they were saying the veterans are all dropping out. And I thought, well, yeah, I understand. I think mindfulness is a great practice for people for whom it works. But when you have high anxiety, like I had after 9/11, I would sit there and try and be mindful. And I was just more aware that I was anxious. That's going to work for me. Right. And I thought, well, let's try breathing. It worked for me. And I understood, that it makes sense. If you can retrain your physiology to be calmer, it could really potentially help with trauma. And what we found was that after 1 week of doing the program, the veterans in our program, their anxiety normalized. In fact, many of them no longer qualified as having post-traumatic stress compared to the control group. Which was really amazing. And then most recently, we've run another collaborative study with the Palo Alto VA where they included men and women, bigger group, more things they were looking at, and found that it was equivalent to or better than the gold standard therapy for trauma. So I think, especially for people who don't want to go to talk therapy, they want an alternative, but they want to heal. Who doesn't want to heal? This is a great technique.
Amazing.